May 11th, 2023, Curitiba, Brazil. It was supposed to be an ordinary Thursday evening. 8-year-old Izabely Alexandra Mariano told her grandmother she was heading to a community center to play soccer with friends. It was the kind of thing kids in her neighborhood did all the time, finding small moments of joy in a place where opportunities were scarce. But Izabely never made it to that soccer game. By 8 o'clock that night, when the streetlights flickered on across the Dona Cida community, her grandmother realized something was wrong. Izabely hadn't come home. What happened in those missing hours would shock a nation and expose the darkest kind of evil hiding in plain sight. The Cidade industrial area of Curitiba isn't the kind of place you see in postcards. It's a working-class neighborhood where families do their best with what they have. The Dona Cida community, where Izabely lived, faced the challenges many urban poor areas do: limited resources, visible street activity tied to illicit trade, and children who often had to navigate their world with less supervision than anyone would want. But it was home, and like any community, people looked out for each other. Izabely was a bright, energetic girl. She loved playing with her friends, going to the community programs when she could, just being a kid. Her family, her mother, grandmother, and relatives all lived close by in the tight-knit community. That Thursday started like any other. Izabely was excited about playing soccer. Around late afternoon, she told her grandmother she was heading out. Her grandmother, trusting the routine, let her go. But hours passed. The soccer program confirmed Izabely never arrived. Panic set in quickly. Family members fanned out across the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking neighbors. Everyone knew Izabely. Everyone wanted to help find her, and that's when witnesses started mentioning a name: Josué dos Santos. Josué dos Santos was relatively new to the area. He'd only been living in the Dona Cida community for about 6 days. The 37-year-old man had moved there with his 2 sons, ages 14 and 10, following what he said was the recent passing of his wife 3 months earlier. Neighbors had noticed him, but didn't know much about him. He mostly kept to himself with his boys. Several people reported seeing Izabely talking with Josué that afternoon. According to witnesses, he had approached her and offered her money, 100 reais, to buy herself a snack. For a child in a struggling community, that seemed like an incredible gift. Security cameras from a nearby location captured something chilling. Footage showed Izabely running, with Josué following behind her. When family members confronted Josué that evening during the search, his story was simple. He said he'd given Izabely the money because she asked for it to buy food. Afterward, he claimed, he even went to Izabely's mother to get change back. The mother confirmed this interaction happened, but something felt wrong, very wrong. As the search intensified and more neighbors gathered, tensions escalated. Some community members, frustrated and suspicious, confronted Josué physically. The situation grew violent enough that military police had to intervene to prevent mob justice. Josué was taken into protective custody that night, but he wasn't officially under arrest yet. There was no proof, just suspicion, just the terrible feeling that something unthinkable had happened. Meanwhile, Izabely was still missing. The next morning, Friday, May 12th, the search resumed with greater urgency. Police brought in tracking dogs trained to find missing persons. Officers methodically worked through the neighborhood. The dogs led them to one location, Josué's house. With legal authority to enter, investigators stepped inside. The small residence was modest, showing signs of recent occupancy by a single father and his 2 sons. Then they found her. Inside a sofa, hidden within the upholstery itself, was Izabely's body. She had been undressed. Her hands were bound. A cloth covered her head. One of Josué's sons had slept on that very couch the night before. The medical examination would later reveal the full horror. There was evidence of assault, evidence of violence, evidence of unspeakable cruelty inflicted on a child. Josué was immediately taken into custody. This time there would be no going home. When questioned, his story changed. Now he claimed he had used substances the night before and couldn't remember anything. He insisted he was innocent, that he had no idea how Izabely ended up in his home. But investigators weren't buying it. As detectives processed the scene, they discovered something else troubling: toys, girls' toys, dolls and other items typically marketed to young girls. Josué only had sons. The working theory was grim. These toys may have been used to lure children. Were there other victims, other children who had been approached? Then there was the matter of Josue's late wife. She had allegedly passed away from a heart attack just 3 months earlier. Given what they now knew about Josue, investigators began reviewing that case too. The circumstances of her passing suddenly seemed worth a second look. Josue's 2 sons were removed from the home by Child Protective Services. They would need specialized interviews to determine if they had witnessed anything or suffered anything themselves. It was a delicate situation. These boys had just lost their mother, and now their father was accused of an unthinkable crime. The legal system moved quickly. Prosecutors requested priority processing due to the nature of the crime, the taking of a child's life. This was feminicide, the targeted violence against someone because of their gender, and the victim was just 8 years old. On June 2024, just over 1 year after Izabely's life was taken, a jury in Curitiba handed down their verdict: guilty. Josue dos Santos was convicted of qualified homicide, specifically feminicide against a child, committed with cruelty and done to cover up another crime. He was also convicted of assault against a vulnerable minor and concealment of a body. The sentence: 37 years, 1 month and 10 days in prison. He would serve that time immediately, with no right to appeal while free. He had been in custody since the day Izabely's body was found, and that's where he would stay. For Izabely's family, no verdict could ever bring her back. No prison sentence could undo the trauma of that May evening when she left to play soccer and never came home. The case highlighted something we see too often: predators who move from place to place, inserting themselves into vulnerable communities where oversight is limited and trust is a necessity. Josue had only been in that neighborhood for 6 days. 6 days was all it took. Today we remember Izabely Alexandra Mariano not as a victim, but as a vibrant 8-year-old girl who loved soccer, who loved her family, and whose life mattered. Her story reminds us why we must remain vigilant, why we must protect the most vulnerable among us, and why justice, though it can never truly balance the scales, still matters. If this case affected you, please consider supporting organizations that work to protect children in vulnerable communities. And if you ever see something that doesn't feel right, trust that instinct. Speak up. Thank you for watching. Until next time, subscribe for more true crime coverage.